Did you know you can test your LB7 glow plugs without digging down in the engine or ripping your fender liners out? If you have a California Emissions LB7, you can. California Emissions LB7s have a glow plug controller with individual wires for each glow plug, conveniently located right on top of the engine at the firewall. If your LB7 doesn't have this controller, yours is a federal emissions truck, and this is the one occasion where you're at a disadvantage over California trucks. Don't get this confused with the glow plug relay. Both trucks will have the glow plug relay. California trucks have it because that relay is also the intake air heater relay. California trucks have a controller, sometimes called a control module, in addition to the relay. On federal trucks, the 4 glow plugs on each bank are tied into 1 wire per bank, so this test won't work on those LB7s. You'll only have 2 wires going up to the top of the engine. You'll most often suspect bad glow plugs when you have an engine that runs rough on cold start. On this truck, I have an engine fault, number P0380. You're only going to get this fault on California trucks because the fault comes from the glow plug controller. The ECM uses what's called feedback voltage from the controller to determine if any plugs are bad. Normal feedback when the glow plugs are on is 5 to 6 volts. If the feedback's only 2 to 3 volts, there's 1 bad glow plug. If it's 1 to 2 volts, 2 plugs are bad, and so on. This tells you how many glow plugs may be bad, but it doesn't tell you which ones are bad. To do that, we're going to check each glow plug at the controller. Disconnect these 2 connectors from the controller. The passenger side connector is for the passenger side bank of glow plugs. On this engine, that's bank 1. Bank 1 has cylinders 1, 3, 5, and 7. The connector on this side, the driver's side, is for bank 2, cylinders 2, 4, 6, and 8. Before we check the glow plugs, let's make sure everything supplying power to the glow plugs is okay. Take your voltmeter and set to DC volts. Attach 1 lead to good ground. Now put the other lead onto any contact in either of these connectors. If you have an assistant, have them turn the ignition on. If you have a good scan tool, there's a function to command the glow plugs on. If you don't have an assistant or a good scan tool, you have to use an alligator clip to clamp onto a contact so you can turn the key on yourself. With the engine cold, the glow plug should come on for several seconds. So you should have around 12 volts when the glow plugs are supposed to be on. If all those contacts have no power, check if the controller is even receiving power from the battery. Check for 12 volts at this post for the large red wire. This should have 12 volts all the time, even with the key off. If you don't have 12 volts there, remove the shroud from the fuse box and see if you're getting 12 volts here. If this 175 amp mega fuse is burnt, the glow plug controller won't get power. If the fuse is burnt, you probably have a short circuit somewhere like this truck did. Anyway, if the controller is okay, you can move on to checking the glow plugs. Make sure you still have a probe connected to a good ground. Set your multimeter to ohms. This is an auto range ohm meter where you don't have to set the range. If you have an ohm meter that has multiple ohm settings, set it to the lowest setting. We're only expecting to measure resistance of less than 1 ohm. The lowest setting on most manual range ohm meters is 200 ohms. Take your probe and check each contact in the 2 glow plug connectors. You should expect to see a number between 0.5 and 1 ohm. When glow plugs fail, you usually see a number much higher than 1 ohm. For instance, here all my glow plugs are reading 0.7 ohms, but this one is reading 15k ohms, which means kilo ohms. That's 15,000 ohms. Now that I know which glow plug is bad, I can remove the fender liner and directly test that glow plug before I replace it. Again, I have 1 probe connected to a good ground, and I'm going to touch the other probe to the threaded end of the glow plug. You don't even have to remove the wire from the glow plug as long as you leave the connector at the controller disconnected. I've got the same reading, 15k, so I know this one's bad and I'm going to replace it. If you probe the glow plug and it tests as good, yet when you probe the connector it's bad, you have a problem with the wire that goes from that glow plug to the controller. Thanks for watching. If my video helped you, please subscribe to my channel.